Hello. In navigating grief, I know that there's a huge weight that you're carrying. There's a lot in your backpack as far as stuff that's going on in your life and all the load you're trying to carry. However, there's also a way to attack grief in a way that can help you. And so, metaphorically, I'm going to speak about taking a journey. And when we take a journey, we need a backpack, right? We need a backpack to store our stuff and to take our most vital things with us. And what might those vital things be? Well, when we're going through the forest, we might need a knife, right? And so there are tools that we can use in grief that will actually cut down on the pain that you're having when we practice those tools. Can't talk about them here, that's for another video, but it is indeed, there are tools to help you with your grief. You don't have to just sit and wait for time to heal it, because in my experience, time does not heal your grief. What you do during the time that you're grieving, that will bring you out to the other side. So we have tools to cut and to dig in with, right? We also have a first aid kit, right? So first of all, at the beginning of our grief, we have to triage. We have to bandage up. We have to make sure that we stop what we'll call the bleeding of life, right? That everything feels overwhelming and you don't know how to stop it. And then we can start to focus on individual areas and try to bandage those parts up until you can get strong enough healing going on where you can step forward in another way. We also need a guidebook at times, right? So with our guidebook, and these are techniques and little exercises that we will do that would help you move through your grief. It depends what comes up in the situation. This is not a cookbook type of thing, but there are little subtle techniques that we can use that help really make a shift in your grief. Another thing we might need is a map. So this is a map here, an atlas, but what we do need is a plan for you to get through your grief. If you're just sitting around waiting in grief and thinking that some magic cavalry is going to come along and help you, that's probably not the case. Because if you're like I was after I lost my child, I felt more and more isolated because friends don't know how to help. They want to help, but they don't know what to say. And so we tend to drift away from certain people. And if we don't have a plan, we find ourselves alone in the forest, not knowing which way to turn, right? So we have to have some kind of a map or kind of a path. And in my program, I focus on a method that I created and I learned while I was coming out of grief, or actually I created after that, into how I went from being so broken that I never thought I'd see another happy day again to actually now I'm thriving. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have a hole in my heart for my son every day and that I don't miss him, but I am living a pretty good life and I feel blessed to have gotten to this point. And that's why I am trying to help people like yourself to not go down the rabbit holes that I went through. We can certainly help you avoid some of those pitfalls, but we need a map and we need stuff to do that with. What else we got? We have a fire starter kit, whether that's a match or whether it's a lighter or some matches, we need something to start a fire within ourselves again for life. Because if you're like I was, you're depressed, you're anxious, you're run down, there's all kinds of stuff falling apart in your life. It feels like your life has imploded and exploded at the same time, and we just don't know what to turn, right? We're just barely hanging on, trying to get through every day. We don't sleep very well. So somehow we need to get a fire started for life again. And, that takes some time to get to that point. But when we get there, we certainly want to ignite that and start to blow on it a little bit and have it ignite further. Now, the next thing I got is some stuff here. We need a compass. We need a way to find our way. And the way to find our way is to work with somebody. If you work with somebody, you have direction way more than you will find on yourself, with yourself. because um, in grief coaching, what I do is I listen and I help you bubble up what's inside of you and help you formulate that not only for yourself going forward, but also so that, a lot of times we can't access what's going on inside of us because our world is just so overwhelmed. So we help give and supply direction for you with understanding and tools and resources for yourselves. What else we got in our backpack? Bug spray to keep certain things away. There are certain things in grief that matter big time. And some of those things are the lies that we tend to tell ourselves. And each one of us has our own set of lies depending on our situation, our relationship to the person, and all this stuff that happened before and after the loss. And we need to have some bug spray to keep those lies and stories away from us so that we can focus on our truth and what's true and move forward. Another thing I finally found was, some bugs where we talked about it later, right? But is for me, really, I could not have done it without faith. Now, when I eventually lost my son, I kind of turned away from God. I was a victim. I was like, God, how could you let this happen to me? How could you let this happen to my family? And what I found is that I really struggled. And in fact, my second year, I left my workplace and I laid in bed for 7 or 8 months and I was absolutely non-functional. And I was in and out of treatment facilities. And what I learned was that I needed God. I don't know how people make some kind of a journey like this of child loss or of a loss of a really close person without some faith in a higher power, my God, Jesus Christ. However, I encourage you to incorporate all of these tools. And these are the kinds of things that we formulate together in my holistic approach. Not only is it physical, spiritual, and psychologically, but we will look at your individual situation, combine all our tools, see what your resources are, see what you're carrying in your backpack, try to lighten the load by pitching rocks one by one out of it, but supply you with the right things for you to move forward. So I hope this has been of some value to you. And if you'd like to proceed with that, I encourage you to book a free consultation call with me. You can find the link to that on my bio up above. And you can also DM me directly and we can start that conversation. In the meantime, I encourage you to first survive, then to strive for better, and eventually maybe even thrive. Thank you.